There is a hidden moment in every financial life when money stops being merely something you earn. It becomes something the world is willing to place in your hands before you have fully earned it. That moment reveals a truth most people never examine. Your borrowing power is not simply a reflection of your income, your assets, or your financial history. It is a reflection of how much confidence the financial system has in your future. But here is the deeper question. What happens when the future becomes uncertain? When technology changes faster than education can keep up? When artificial intelligence reshapes entire professions? When economic cycles tighten, interest rates shift, businesses slow down, and the cost of living quietly rises? In those moments, borrowing power becomes something far more revealing than a financial convenience. It becomes a test of resilience, because the ability to borrow is not the same as the ability to remain financially strong. A person may have access to enormous credit and still be financially fragile. Another may borrow very little and possess extraordinary financial strength. The difference lies in what borrowing is being used to do. Is it being used to consume the future? Or is it being used to build a future capable of producing more value? This distinction has existed throughout human history. Every great economic transformation has created new forms of leverage. Tools allowed one person to produce more than physical strength alone could achieve. Machines multiplied human effort. Education multiplied human knowledge. Technology multiplied human speed. And now intelligent automation is beginning to multiply decision-making itself. But every form of leverage carries the same hidden question. What happens when the system supporting that leverage changes? A borrowed amount may appear small when income is stable, but the same amount can become enormous when income disappears. This is why financial resilience cannot be measured by borrowing capacity alone. It must be measured by the distance between your obligations and your freedom. The more of tomorrow's income that has already been promised to yesterday's decisions, the less flexibility remains when life changes direction. And life always changes direction. A career can evolve. A business can slow down. A technology can become obsolete. A family responsibility can suddenly increase. Even the human body itself reminds us of this truth. Health is often ignored precisely because it appears predictable until it is not. The same principle governs finance. Resilience is not the absence of pressure. It is the ability to absorb pressure without losing your identity. That is why the psychology of borrowing is so powerful. Debt does not merely create a financial obligation. It creates a psychological background noise. A person may appear calm while constantly calculating the next payment, the next income, the next emergency. Over time, this changes decision-making. Fear encourages short-term thinking. Short-term thinking creates poor choices. Poor choices reduce future income, and reduced future income creates more dependence on borrowing. A financial problem can therefore become a psychological loop long before it becomes a mathematical crisis. This is where discipline becomes more valuable than intelligence. A highly intelligent person can construct a sophisticated financial strategy and still destroy resilience through emotional decisions. But discipline creates something more powerful. It creates a margin between what you earn and what you spend, a margin between what you owe and what you own, a margin between what the world demands from you and what your mind can peacefully handle. In the language of technology, resilience resembles redundancy. A system designed with no backup may function perfectly until one component fails. A resilient system contains reserves. Human beings are no different. Savings are reserves. Skills are reserves. Health is a reserve. Relationships built on trust are reserves. Emotional stability is a reserve. And spiritual strength is perhaps the deepest reserve of all. Because when external certainty disappears, the mind begins searching for an internal foundation. This is where the wisdom of Lord Hanuman becomes remarkably relevant to financial life. Hanumanji possessed immense strength, yet his strength was never used for ego. His power was guided by devotion. His courage was guided by purpose. His abilities were placed in service of something greater than himself. That is a profound lesson about financial power. The question is not merely, how much can I control? The deeper question is, what is my power serving? Borrowing power used for vanity can weaken freedom. Borrowing power used with wisdom can expand capability. The same instrument can either build resilience or quietly consume it. The difference is intention, discipline, and awareness. This principle also explains why lifelong learning has become one of the most valuable forms of financial protection. In a rapidly changing world, income is increasingly connected to adaptability. A skill that produces income today may not produce the same income tomorrow, but the ability to learn, communicate, solve problems, and understand new systems can remain valuable across generations of technology. Your financial resilience, therefore, depends not only on your bank balance. It depends on your capacity to remain useful. This is why productivity is not simply about doing more. It is about directing energy toward activities that increase future freedom. This is why minimalism can become financially powerful. Every unnecessary commitment reduces flexibility. Every recurring expense creates a small claim on tomorrow, and thousands of small claims can eventually become a life with very little room to breathe. Minimalism, at its deepest level, is not about owning fewer objects. It is about allowing fewer unnecessary demands to control your future. Even relationships influence financial resilience. A person surrounded by trust, wisdom, and honest communication may withstand uncertainty differently from someone making every major decision in isolation. Human beings are not designed to carry every burden alone. Service, cooperation, and responsibility can become forms of strength. This is one reason the spiritual path of Hanumanji is so powerful. He demonstrates that humility and strength are not opposites. The strongest person in the room does not need to constantly prove strength. Likewise, the financially resilient person does not need to constantly display financial power. Sometimes the greatest financial victory is the ability to say, "I do not need this." Not because you are incapable of obtaining it, but because your freedom is worth more than the appearance of abundance. And this brings us back to borrowing power. A strong financial life is not one in which every available opportunity is taken. It is one in which you remain capable of choosing. Choosing when to borrow, choosing when to wait, choosing when to invest, choosing when to protect cash, choosing when to walk away. Freedom is the ability to make decisions without being forced by yesterday's obligations. So perhaps the most important question is not, how much can I borrow? Perhaps it is, how much uncertainty can I survive without borrowing? That question reveals your true financial resilience, because resilience is built before the crisis arrives. It is built through the quiet decisions nobody applauds, the expense you do not create, the skill you continue learning, the health you protect, the relationship you nurture, the investment you understand before making, the desire you postpone, the money you preserve, and the gratitude you practice while you are still waiting for the future to reveal itself. Gratitude does not mean ignoring financial reality. It gives the mind enough peace to see reality clearly. And clarity is financial power. When the mind is controlled by fear, every opportunity looks urgent. When the mind is controlled by ego, every possession looks necessary. But when the mind becomes disciplined, grateful, and steady, borrowing becomes what it should have been all along. A tool, not an identity, not a substitute for income, not a replacement for patience, not a way to purchase an appearance of success. A tool used only when it strengthens the structure of life. This is the deeper lesson of financial resilience. Your greatest wealth may not be the amount of money you can access. It may be the number of difficult situations you can face without surrendering your peace. And perhaps this is why the image of Lord Hanuman remains so timeless. His strength was immense, but his strength was controlled. His power was vast, but his heart was humble. His courage was fearless, but his actions were guided by devotion. May we learn the same lesson in our financial lives. May we build enough discipline to resist unnecessary obligations,